Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Reaction Therapy Podcast. This is a great day. We get the chance to do an artist interview, and it's just probably the funnest thing we do on the podcast to me, Nick. It is a day we're interviewing Abstract.
Yeah, it's going to be a great day. I'm excited to hear what he says. You know, we reacted to a song Crisis on the channel not too long ago, and he had some powerful lyrics in the song, so I'm excited to hear about that song and others too.
And we've been listening to some of his music on the side. I don't want to listen to too much because I want to be able to react to it in the future, but one of his latest songs, Death Wish, I cannot, it just hit me right. Like, I love that song and I can't wait to ask him a little bit about that. But we have a lot of questions to ask him, and hopefully he has the time. He seems like a really cool guy. I cannot wait to find out more about him.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Well, then should we just get right into it?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah. We're going into Abstract. I don't know a ton about him, but I've got a lot of questions to ask about him, what he's done, his music. I do know one thing, if you can trust Google, in researching a little bit. He started in New Jersey, went all the way to Wyoming, and now lives in Tennessee, in Nashville. What a switch from New Jersey to Wyoming. If that's true, I got to find out where this guy's come from and what exactly the story is behind growing up even in Wyoming. Like, I know he's got a lot of intense lyrics. They probably have to do with his life, but he is a guy that, as a rapper, I cannot wait to hear, number one, his story, number two, his passion, and number three, where he's going next. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's introduce Abstract. Abstract, it is great to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy, you've got a lot going on, but to be a part of Reaction Therapy, we are so excited. Nick and I have been waiting for this moment. We have tons of questions for you, but really, thank you for taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Yeah, can we just dive right in? Because we have questions, and I know so much of our audience. We had tons of requests for you when we did Crisis, the reaction recently. And I know a lot of people want to know more about you than just your music. They want to know who you are. So Nick, fire away.
Yeah, I guess my first question for you would be, how long have you been making music and like performing and stuff like that?
I started super young doing just piano lessons. My mom would make me do it every week. And then as I got older, I got into, more rock-based stuff. And I was like, I want to play electric guitar. So started doing that. Eventually got into drums. Then for a good point, I kind of stopped doing anything musically. I was in Jackson, Wyoming. So I was competing in like slope style and half pipe and big mountain skiing, and I just kind of put it all to the side. I never stopped listening. Like, I was always, the guy who was like, check out this guy, and if someone gave me the aux cord, I'd be like, and then slowly, when I was in high school, I started freestyling at parties, and then just kind of a lot happened. I had my first heartbreak. My family went through like kind of a financial crisis with that whole thing. And I just needed a way to vent. And I finally actually started writing it down, picked up $100 USB mic and grabbed GarageBand and was ripping beats off YouTube and just slowly, started actually recording and putting stuff out until, it's kind of domino affected till today. And
Can I ask you if back in high school when you were doing this, you had all this stuff going on in your life? We always say, here at Reaction Therapy, I always say, don't judge a book by its cover. Just because somebody looks like things are cool, they might not be. Or just because somebody looks different doesn't mean that something's off with them. And when you're in high school and you're going through stuff and you decide music is the outlet, like, was that cool? Was that a part of, like, I'm trying to think back to high school. Well, that was a long time ago for me. But I don't know that, like, people who had a band were really cool, but it was few and far between. And I wonder if you were singing or rapping or what other people thought of you doing it back in high school.
I think my core friends thought it was really cool. And like, I'd freestyle at parties and people would be like, well, that's wild. Like, he's actually good. And then, so I think when I started to put stuff out on, back in the day, it was Dat Piff. It was all mixtapes and free albums. And then SoundCloud came along. But when I started to do it, people were like, and also I was someone everyone knew growing up, like it was a very small town, and I would get into things. I would get into things and become as good as I could at it, and then move on to something else. And everyone was like, "Oh, it's just another, phase of Luke's. Like he'll whatever." And the fun thing about music, what I found was like it's something where you never master it. So it was actually the perfect thing for me because I was like, there's so many different facets to it, and even in hip hop, it's like cadence, flow, wordplay, production. You're talking about so many different things that you can, there's no mastering. It's just a constant journey. So I think it was something I finally found, and people really didn't think at the time that. Well, I think my core friends were like, "Oh, this is wild. You're gonna go super far." But like overall, it was like we're in a small town in Wyoming. Like he's posting things on SoundCloud, no one cares. But it turned into everything for me.
That's really cool. I also wanted to ask, like, you said before the show that you do like more than just rap, you do a lot of different genres and stuff like that. Who are your like biggest idols or people you look up to like in the music industry?
I'd say growing up, I was exposed to a lot of classic rock. Like I didn't even up until I was a certain age. Like my dad didn't even have FM radio on. It was like the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan. It was the Who. It was the Beatles. It was that Chuck Berry. Like that. That's what I was growing up on. So when I got into my teens, I started to find. I found like Good Charlotte. I found Green Day. I found Jet, Arctic Monkeys, all these things that felt attached to what my dad had raised me on, but felt like mine and a little more angsty, a little more, felt at the time. And that's when I started to find, music for myself. And then through that, actually moving to Wyoming is when I really discovered hip hop, weird enough, not in New Jersey. Because all the extreme ski films, they'd have, these very hard hitting, hip hop tracks, Wu-Tang, even Swollen Members, Redman, Method Man, got into them because of that whole thing. Like, but the way I was introduced to hip hop was through, extreme ski films and skateboard edits and stuff like that. So that was my introduction to hip hop fully.
What a background. You were actually competitive, like skiing and snowboarding and all that stuff up there?
Yeah, so I was part of the free ride team. So I'd actually go to school most days till noon and then head to the mountain and ski till 4. And we would ski with the free ride team, and then we would kind of compete in, like Sun Valley, Idaho, Park City, stuff like that. But yeah.
What a cool story. Like this is something that regular people out here, us, would never get to hear, like unless I dug really deep, but to hear an inside story of like, man, this guy got like tons of talent here in so many different ways. Can you tell me, I really have this honest question for you, Abstract, because this, I'm a therapist, so I'm a mental health professional, and I work with people all the time from all different walks of life. But when I've gotten into the music industry here of seeing video reactions, literally only 7 months ago on an accident doing what we do and not being exposed to tons of rap other than my early days of Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, right? It just seems really hard to make it, to sustain, to stay up with what's happening, because there's so much music out there today than in the 80s when I grew up. There just wasn't, because there wasn't anything downloaded and there wasn't technology. So how hard is it today, honestly, if people ask, is it to just really stay up and current and with what you're releasing, what you're doing?
It's a lot. I talked about this on my Instagram story the other day. I was just kind of overwhelmed a bit. It's because when I started, it was still, there were a lot of artists, and it was kind of the beginning age of, the Mac Millers, the Macklemores, the Tyler, the Creator, these people who were independently releasing music without, the power of a record label behind them, and creating a following through that. And I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, I love that everyone has access to the technology, and you can put a studio in your apartment and, even a closet, and you can even record on your phone. And, if you're good, it's going to sound good. But it definitely oversaturated. I feel like I am lucky that I came in at a time where it wasn't as saturated. And so I do have, my core to continue to grow and share the music through word of mouth or social media or whatever it may be. But these days I find it's not even for me that I get frustrated. I just know so many talented people, especially living in Nashville now. I came up through the internet where I was forced to, learn YouTube, learn how to make content, learn how to make music videos independently. When this stuff is done, I'm the guy calling all the shots. I employ all the people. So when I come out to Nashville, I love it, and there's such talented people here. But it's still living in this. I come from a bootstrapping background where you make it happen. And there's still a lot of people who archaically think, American Idol is going to put me on, The Voice is going to put me on. And it's just, who even, I think I saw the guy who won The Voice last year, just playing an open mic. And I looked at his Spotify, he has 17,000 monthly listeners. And it's wow. Like that stuff is great and it looks great on paper, but it's really not blowing up anyone. That's why I think TikTok is this double-edged sword of you do get the cream of the crop kind of bubbling to the surface, but also you get a lot of, stuff that maybe some kid's super rich and is able to pay for the promo and just shove it in enough faces and everyone goes, oh, it's a hit, but is it?
Yeah.
You don't know. So it's an interesting time, and I think it's harder than ever to really break through. I still feel I have a lot of growth to do, and there's a lot more things I want to do. But I'm very thankful that I did come in at a time where I was able to kind of cement myself, because I think it's getting less and less easy to do so.
Well said.
Yeah, really well said. It reminds me of us too, because we're making content too, and it is really hard. I mean, and there's so many other content creators out there. It's just really, it is really hard.
Just anybody can do anything, and you're right. They can make it look flashy. They can make it look, like it's amazing, especially with technology. But really, like creating quality content or quality music, and being somebody who sends a message. That's why we're so mental health focused, because we love music. And man, yours has so much relationship. I can't wait to hear your relationship history, because I don't know if the songs are related directly to you, but boy, they are deep and they cut like hard. And we're going to get into the songs in a minute. I wonder, did you have something, or do you want?
Yeah, I was really on. It was on that. It was really on that point. I was just going to ask about your lyrics, and are your lyrics like related to you, or are they just kind of about what a relationship could be, or is it kind of like you?
Yeah, it's all true. It's all things I've been through. And weird thing about me too is up until moving to Nashville, and even with my own music still, I write alone. I don't do, there's a lot of people, and no disrespect, I totally get it, but they'll get in a room of 6, 7 people and you come out with a song at the end of the day.
Yep.
But what happens through that is the sole perspective is mine a lot of times, unless I'm collaborating with someone where I'm kind of volleying off of what they're saying. The perspective you get out of me in the studio is me being alone without any judgment around me, to be as honest as possible, which I think is why I'm able to, come off so authentically, because it is. And there's no one in the room with me for me to hold back or pull my punches or anything.
Yeah.
When I'm writing, it's straight from here to there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So your core, okay. From what I gather, you come from New Jersey over to Wyoming, and I'm trying to think of any like vaster difference you could have, but what a different place. I mean, somehow when I think of Wyoming, I think of country music, because I think a lot of songs reference Wyoming and the land out there. But really, like, what is it like to start in New Jersey, go to Wyoming? I mean, we don't even go to Nashville yet. How you adjusted to people? Has your core group of people changed as you've moved? Has it stayed the same? Do you, like, as you've grown and become an artist like you are today, has it changed who you trust and who's in that inner core? Or what was the moving, shifting, and the people in your life like?
I think, so I always call Wyoming home, even though I spent, my first 11 years in New Jersey, just because I think those are the years where you start to really decide who you want to be and who you want to surround yourself with. Up until that point, your parents are like, you're going on a play date with so-and-so. And you're like, all right, like, I guess they're my friend now. But yeah, Wyoming was definitely, I started to really discover who I wanted to be. And it's funny too, because I grew up in Jackson, so Yellowstone, Grand Teton, that was like
Man,
my
wow.
backyard. But growing up, my mom, what I was talking about earlier, my mom actually prepared me for it way more intensely than I needed to. So
Hmm.
she was like, I was listening to heavy Green Day, Arctic Monkeys, and stuff like that at the time, Good Charlotte. Um, and my mom was like, "You gotta find a country band you like, because that's all they listen to." And I was like, "Damn." So I found like the most, you know, vanilla Rascal Flatts. I was like, "I'll listen to this. This is fine." And she made me, sell my lacrosse gear, bunch of stuff. And I get there and I'm so prepared for like, Westworld, that's what I thought I was walking into. And I find out that it's all like skater kids and snowboard kids, and
Wow.
hip hop is super prevalent where I was from, and it was a whole different experience than I was ready for. So I think my I was able to transition easily because I was prepared for so much more of a change. And so, yeah, but that really impacted who I became, and, the kind of people, I don't know, I vibe best with creative people and people who, see life as an opportunity to live and not an opportunity to chain yourself to anything. And,
Hmm.
I come from a place where people are very, whether it's rock climbing or hiking or skiing, they live a happy life. Like they
Hmm.
chase what makes them happy, which I think was a big thing for me. And it's a big theme of my music as well. I think
Yeah.
that subconsciously maybe influenced me more than I realized sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, like, I really wonder early life stuff with you. Of course, I'm the mental health guy, right? So I like going back
Yeah.
into people's past, but really, like, you mentioned relationships being a part of your music. All true. Family life, like just how in the transitions you've made from one place to another, how much of your family, the relationships you've had, friends, dating, any of that stuff that's happened in your life played into the music, and how much did it ground you? How much did any chaos or any transitions or adjustments you had to deal with when you're younger? You don't have control over that. So you just kind of have to live with it and adjust. How much did that
Yeah.
play into you creating independence and kind of being on your own and learning to live life just with you?
Yeah. I think, um, so growing up, my mom was more of the creative side. Like I was saying, she put me into, piano lessons.
Yeah.
In the summers, I'd go to all kinds of different camps of mainly like artists oriented, whether it was like pottery or painting or stuff like that. So she really wanted me to like, explore my creative side. And then my dad is much more logical in numbers and business. Um, so, I love my dad, but there was a time where it was like, well, it's not making you money. What are you gonna do? And it was like, I know I can get there, but he's just someone where it's like results, which was important for me because now, especially as an independent artist, it comes down to yes, I live for what I make, and
Right.
the idea of art over money is a great idea, but at the end of the day, it costs money to live, it costs money to eat, it costs money
Mm-hmm.
for rent. And so you got to find that even medium of being business minded while at the same time allowing yourself, to be that creative. That's why I think I have two different modes where I'm in the studio and free and creative. And then when I step out, it's like, well, how do I market it? And that's a big difference between, and I think this is what was giving me a lot of anxiety the other day was even talking to industry friends. They're like, I've been doing these rights with people and they come up with the TikTok idea first and then the song second.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's not, I don't know. I'll use what I'm already making and be like, oh, we could apply it to this trend in this way or
Right.
something like that. But I just, it just takes so much of the art out of it for me to think about the marketing first and the art second.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was getting really flustered the other day because I was like, that's not what it is for me. That's not what it's supposed to be about to me. But as I was saying with my dad and my mom, I think it was a great dichotomy that led to me having a good handle on what was needed to lead the life I do.
Yeah, it's a good one more thing, Nick. I got to ask one more thing before you could
go.
jump in, because it makes me think, what is the toughest adjustment maybe or situation you had to deal with growing up that just flashes back to you now? Like the biggest adjustment I had to make or the biggest situation I had to deal with growing up was what?
I think it was when I was still really heavily chasing this dream and it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
It was like the numbers were there, it was getting some traction, but I wasn't making money. And basically, that's how I ended up living in Seattle for 2 years because I basically leveled and I was like, all right, I had tried to go to regular college twice and in Laramie, Wyoming, which just, it wasn't for me. I met some great people, friends I'll probably keep in touch with for life, but it just wasn't for me. I was not happy. It wasn't where I knew I needed to be. So I ended up going to Seattle and trying to get a audio production degree. And even that was like, I love being here in the city. I love all the people I've met, but there is a certain amount of, they're trying to kind of, I guess, nail you into being a servant of the industry instead of being a part of the industry in the way that I was so adamant about. And that's why I was like, I don't know. I felt like pieces of my soul were being chipped away at just to get me to serve instead of be a part of it. So yeah, I think it was things like that where it was like just these little sacrifices of like, I want it so bad, but it's like, you want to make the people in your life happy and everyone may not see the same vision as you. So you got to kind of compromise sometimes and, continue to do what you need to do for you, but also, you still want to make the parents and family happy. And sometimes you got to do that.
This is the testament, Nick. To
I've been wanting to say this for a
go
while.
for it, yeah.
You're really speaking my language right now. I just graduated college and I definitely could go out and get a job right now and make some good money, but I really want to keep this going, what we have here. And it is a tough balance between I'm trying to make this business work and for us to be able to sustain it, but I also want to do it no matter what. And it's just really hard to manage those two things. So I definitely feel you there.
And here it is. I'm, of course, the dad here. Of course, you have 2 therapists for parents, so that make you crazy right there. But I'm the guy who's like, I tell every client I have who's started college, stopped, or finished, or whatever in their 20s, that's the time to fail. You want to fail as much as you can, but don't fail by sitting still. Fail by trying something and do not quit until you have run your passion dry. Yeah. Because I do believe this is a great testament when he talked about TikTok and that being first versus the music first, that, you have to be able to have, number one, a core substance of who you are and some quality there, that we're into a personality generated society instead of a character generated society. So to be able to know, this matters to me. And in our world, just because there are likes or views or, like he said, something flashy in a thumbnail or something doesn't mean it's quality material. And so kudos to you for like sticking it out and saying, I'm not done. I haven't run out of gas yet. And I need to, and what you did was what I try to talk to people, keep trying, move, change, adjust. You tried school, you just different places to live. And that's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Well, it's taken me on a journey. I'm, some days are tough, but I'm very thankful for what it's done for me and where it's taken me. Because, may have not been the easiest path, but it's the path I needed to take to become who I am today. So
cool.
It is what it is. Yeah. And then my other thing, I have this Moon 52 brand, which is kind of my other passion. So that's my thing I go to when I want to be creative, but I feel like I've hit a wall with music. It's my pivot and passion. So we do everything from, sneakers to coats and jackets, and it helps, me make more than just artist merch, kind of make more of an apparel brand as opposed to just slapping abstract on a hoodie. So that's my other, I guess, passion, but yeah.
So show us again. Tell us what it is.
So it's called Moon 52.
Cool.
I don't know what I have right here. It's basically with my 2018 album. I had this logo and a couple little drops over the years. from 2015. And then in 2018, I basically was like, well, what if I explain the ethos of this Moon 52 thing through the album? So what we ended up doing was I wanted to make, even now it's still a very big thing, but the world is very singles oriented. What's the single? What's the one song? I wanted to create something that basically made people digest a full album again. So I did a short film about 9 minutes that's half live action, half animation. That introduces you to, the story, connects it to the album before it, and then the rest of the story plays out through the music and the audio and the album. So I wanted to make kind of this multimedia, kind of an experiment. It ended up having more impact than I thought it would. And it's just something where, in an age where everyone was so singles driven, I was like, I want to basically force you to enjoy something front to back in order to understand it. So,
That's really cool.
but yeah, I basically built the ethos into that. And then over the last couple of years, I've kind of done everything from vinyl collectibles to, we did a Agenda trade show in Las Vegas where we had a booth and everything. So it's something that, I can grow alongside the music, but also I would have no problem if it grows legs of its own and becomes an entirely different entity. But it's, I just like to make things, ideas, bringing things to life, whether it's audio or apparel. It feels the same to me. I love the process.
Awesome.
That's really cool. That's an inside scoop that
I know,
probably
we
not a lot of
wouldn't have
people know
known
about.
before.
So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you going to be touring anytime soon? And like, what's coming up for you with music and touring and stuff like that?
So we've got, I believe, 3 more singles. I think 3 more singles, 2 more music videos, 1 more lyric video. Yeah. So basically, I've been doing a single a month leading up to the album, and then the album comes out September 16th.
Awesome.
That is No More Hope for the Hopeless. And we're looking to do just a small tour in November, something like 5-6 cities, just US. And I'm trying to get back overseas for, I say for whatever reason, but I think it's basically, back in the day, a lot of German YouTubers were using my music. And now I have this massive part of my following that's in Germany. So that's another thing where I'm really trying to get back overseas. We've done London in the past. We did Prague. We did Amsterdam. And that's something I miss for sure, especially with COVID, is just going overseas. And a lot of my producers, my main guys, Blue Lake is in Sweden. My other guys, Drum of Battalion, are in Norway. And my main guy, Craig, he's from Scotland, but he actually lives in Taiwan now. So it's things like that where we used to see each other every 6 months. But COVID has made it so we really haven't seen each other in like 3 years, 3.5, maybe 4. But yeah, that I'm definitely trying to get back overseas, do a bigger US tour later in the year too. But yeah, basically that's the plan for now.
That is really cool. Awesome. But you know what I just thought of while he was saying all that? It's like, of course I have tons of questions here, but you just said no more hope for the hopeless. And I'm sitting here racking my brain thinking, wait a minute, there's no more hope left. What are we doing? So please tell me. I'm sitting here racking my brain.
So a lot of the album is, and especially what it was with those relationships I talked about, is, this want to help and save. And, I don't know what it is. For whatever reason through my life, that's, kind of, I don't know if it's a weird complex I've had, but it's like you want to help people, and I've always been attracted to people who, maybe are too broken for me to mend. And that's even a thing too. It's like, you can't fix anyone. If someone, from therapy, I'm sure you're very, very familiar with it, but you can't talk someone into fixing themselves. They have to want to. It really, you can do it. You can be there for them. You can console them. You can help them talk through it. But at the end of the day, if they don't want it, it's for nothing. So that's really where No More Hope for the Hopeless comes from. It's like, if you don't have hope in yourself, I can't help you. for so
That's
long.
really
I
good.
tried to and went down with the ship, and it's breaking. A lot of the album is breaking that cycle in my life. And even now, I've been with someone for about 10, 11 months, and it's, we both went through terrible things, and we both, got to that point in our lives where it's like, we have to care about ourselves first before anyone's able to care for us. And it's just a relationship that's been beautiful, and we found each other at the right time after going through the right circumstances. And that's what it had to be. It sucks that individually we went through what we went through, but there's multiple levels to that of, you don't appreciate what you should appreciate until you get, until the world shows you what else it could have been. So yeah, a lot of the title comes from that. It's just no more hope for the hopeless. It's like, you can't save people unless they want to save themselves. That's it.
That makes sense. It clears it up for me. I don't have to be confused. And I can explain it to other people because it's the same philosophy with 12-step programs. When people are in addiction, and you can pull all the people you want into recovery or to send them off to treatment. But if they're not really wanting the help, if they haven't hit that spot in life where it's like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, then it is a revolving door. And once they do hit it and realize, I've got to be able to help myself. And one thing I can do is to drag myself to a meeting or drag myself away from the people or the places I've been before, then there's no hope unless they can get that little bit of energy. Like, and I had a mentor of mine tell me once when I was talking about addiction and helping people, she said, Tom, if people want help bad enough, they will on their hands and knees crawl to some place, to a church, to some place that offers help. They will get themselves there. If people are thirsty enough, they will drink any water that is in front of them and not worry about whether it's healthy or not, because they just want help. And you described that, like some people want to feel better. They just don't want to do what it takes to feel better. So that was well said.
Yeah. It has to come from them. It's nothing that you can force on someone. It has to come from them. That's the only way where they'll actually, find recovery.
Well, okay. So you go ahead. You want to go? Okay. I'm loaded with this stuff. Do you have much hate that comes from people, period?
You stole my question.
Okay. I won't ask that. Go ahead.
No, but yeah, I was going to ask that too. How do you handle the hate from people because I mean, we get hate now too, being content creators, I'm sure.
And it's few and far between, but it seems like it's in bold. I feel like it stands out sometimes, and it shouldn't.
It does.
It honestly, it is hard sometimes where it's like you'll get 200 good comments and then like 2 people said some things and that's what you think about. And it's just, maybe that's like the self-preservation human thing where it's like you focus on the bad because it's like, well, I got to change. But I think a lot of times, I even had this experience a couple of years ago, and this kid is now a massive fan and like still to this day. But I think I was on Twitter and just spewing this sucks, that sucks, go do this again, like just a lot more explicit than I'm saying here. But basically, I direct messaged him and I was like, "Are you good? Like, is everything at home all right? I don't know where that came from. I don't know why you feel so strongly about what you were saying." And he was like, "Honestly, I've been going through it. I'm sorry I took it out on you. Like, I've been listening to you for years, and I'm sorry that wow. And that was eye-opening to me because I was like, it's exactly, it's so many times projecting. And I'll take constructive criticism. This mix sounded bad. Why are the vocals in the back? Should have turned up that guitar. That's great. I'll take that. But just blind, that when someone's there's no constructive amount to it. You're like, that person's projecting, like that they have to be, because there's no, when someone comes off at you with mad animosity, there's something else going on. There's nothing else makes sense,
Yeah. So we did Crisis. We reacted to that, which was phenomenal and kind of threw me way off course because I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect it that hard and that deep. And especially relationally, like, it just speaks to chaos. It speaks to, like I said, gaslighting and, being caught in toxic relationships, and so many people don't see it until they're in it. And then sometimes when you're in it, so many people feel like, well, what's my other option? Like, or they don't want to be alone, or they don't want to quit because so much has been invested in it. There's so many stories there that, but it really identified a toxic relationship. And at what point am I going to see that that's what it is and do something about it and stand up for myself and just not be a party to it? Because I always tell people, look in the mirror, quit looking at the other person and, pointing the finger at them. Look at what you're doing in this. And maybe sometimes it's so toxic, the best thing you can do is just get out of it. But I have one other I want to ask about song, but tell me about Crisis and like just what it was like. I mean, was that a true story?
Oh yeah, that was my last relationship. That was the first song I think I made when I moved to Nashville. Because
we got a lot of Abstract. We got a lot of. That's what made it. That's what made Nick put it on the reactions. We had people after people after people asking for that.
You guys.
And man, it was like I hadn't heard it, but let's do it. And I loved that song. So tell us.
Yeah, it was even that. Me talking in the end is actually the real video I sent right before I packed up my things and left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's, especially with that relationship, even what I was talking about earlier, where I kind of jumped at the first time, like, oh, come and move down to Florida. I jumped at it because for so long, there'd been so many walls and just like this inability to, let me fully in. And I was like, oh, this is finally my chance. And, as the months went on after I left, I found out a lot, and everything started to make sense. But it just was wild to me, just the levels of lying and just that. And you're there and you feel something, and you can feel that things are weird, and something's going on, but you don't. For me, it was like I just come out of something toxic. I was in this as well. I think I held on to it because I was like, I don't want to admit to myself that I messed up again. I want to hang on because there's no way. How could this? There's no way this happened twice. Lightning doesn't strike twice. But what I didn't realize at the time is that I had, on a silver platter, told this person in the first couple of days of knowing them everything I just went through before. Told someone that someone had done me terribly, and I took them back. And she took that as a massive, let's go off to the races. Yep. I can do whatever. And this man's going to, and, also what I was talking about earlier, the weaponized ability to go, oh, I'm not being weird. That's your past trauma. And, it's perfect cover. I have this song in my album called Solving My Own Murder. That's basically that is after all the damage has been done and everything has, the dust has settled, and looking at all the evidence and going, what the hell? Like I saw it all, and I didn't know it was coming. It's a weird thing. It's also, people withhold a lot, and it's kind of like that. You think if I can just be perfect enough, if I can just do this, if I can just make them happy this time, everything will be okay. It never is, because the whole game is withholding to keep you on your toes and serving and delivering as much as possible. It's the whole game. And yeah, just so many mind games went on with that, I think. And it's just one of those things where you get out of it and, you can look at the train wreck and go, there was no track. Mm-hmm. What did you think was going to happen? But you don't realize that until you're standing outside and looking at it and going, damn,
Yeah, the definition of codependence and a toxic relationship. And I always say, people get tired of me saying it, but I love the line that I learned a long time ago, is that normal doesn't pick crazy. Sane people don't pick insane people to be with. And so if you say ever, I'm with this crazy person, I usually say, well, look in the mirror, because you're in the same boat. And the only way sometimes to deal with it is I'm going to remove myself from the crazy, because crazy can become normal. But a crazy couple can't become normal. Like it takes one person being able. So sane people don't pick insane people to be with. And you'll notice, and you've said it, the more normal thinking you get, the less you would ever pick that to be with anyway. So you start to pick more normal people to be with.
Yep. Yeah. It's wild. When you step away and look at it, it's so crazy. Because I don't know, we as humans, there's so many it really shows us how malleable the state of our reality is, because there's so many things that I told my friends stories and they're like, why did you not tell me this? I would have told you to get out months ago. And I'm like, but I was in it and I didn't
Yeah.
see it like that. This was the reality I was living.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about your fan base and like what they're like.
I couldn't have asked for better people. I think that's the thing, is that I've always been so authentic and vulnerable that the people who have really, really gravitated to me are the people who really feel it. Are the people who stick with me even now, and, no matter what my sound changes or what I do, they know that, what I'm giving them is my honesty and my story. And, I think what happens sometimes is fair weather fans come to me for a sound and I switch it up and they're like, oh, this wasn't what I was looking for. But the people who really listen to me, I think that's a big thing. Is a lot of my base listens to lyrics and they really care about what is being said. And that's why they stick with me, regardless of what we do sonically or how I change approach. Or I think that's the coolest thing. That's honestly, I'm very introverted. I think it comes across in my lyrics. I enjoy performing, but I absolutely am scared shitless of it. Leading up to it, I hate the idea of performing. I really do. You put me on a stage and I'll flip the switch and I'll have the time of my life. But the idea of doing it to me is petrifying. It really is. I honestly, for weeks before the tour, I lose sleep. I can't. It's terrifying to me. No matter how many times I've done it, I've probably played 150 shows. I don't know. But it really is one of the scariest things. The idea of doing it. Once I'm on stage, I'm good to go. I have a damn blast, and it's off to the races. But it's the anxiety of leading up to it. So the cool thing with touring, which I really do love, is talking to everyone after the shows. That's really what I do it for. When you're online and there's comments and there's messages, it's like it's all very cold. They can still come across with like the kind words and their experiences and the way they relate and stuff. But until you're having a person talk, it doesn't feel that real. So my favorite thing is talking to people after shows. That's really, because I don't know, everyone has a different way they relate, and that's also a big thing for me. I really try not to, do the whole, this is exactly why this was written and all this stuff, because I think it takes some of the magic out, because someone goes, well, that's not the way I related to it, but I guess I was wrong. And it's like, no, you weren't wrong. That's just the way you related to it. So I think sometimes over explanation of art can actually kill it. So for me, I try, I'll nod sometimes, but I believe there is the connective tissue is between, the artist and the person perceiving it. What's in between that is the art. So that's the cool thing too, is getting people's perspectives on why they relate to things and how. Now I think that's always a beautiful thing to. I've had people tell me stories about how they heard the song and what it meant to them, and I'm like, I've never thought about it like that, but I'm so glad you do. That's the beauty of art.
That's so cool. And I love the idea, because I'm an introvert too. And so is Nick. Like I love doing this. There is nothing doing reactions to videos to me. While I love putting them out there, they are nothing compared to, like, we've had Zoom calls with different subscribers or followers where we get to talk to them face to face and get to know who they are. And that to me is the funnest thing, is the interaction with people, because they're all over the world now, right? And you've got people all over the world following you that literally wait for the moment to get to say hi. And that's their moment. And for you to appreciate the fact that these people like have waited to see you and to be able to say hi when you just feel like your normal self, I'm sure that it means everything to them. That's really cool that you take the time to do that.
It's awesome too. I mean, especially we did a meet and greet in London, and I believe it lasted 2 hours, because we actually did a free show and packed it out. And I was standing there for 2 hours just talking to everyone. But it was so cool for me, because I was like, I come from, thousands and thousands of miles away from you, and you have such a relationship with my music. Like that's my big thing, is it really shows how connected we all are,
Yeah.
in our experiences and as humans. And I think that's one of the coolest things, because everyone always thinks about, oh, that's so far away, it's a whole different world. But just to hear how much these people relate to my music that was, made so many thousands of miles away in an entirely different town and an entirely different government, our realities are so similar at their core, and our experiences are so similar at their core. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's the connective tissue that music can bring.
Okay, last question from me. I know I've asked a ton, but I have one more. Death Wish. Like my favorite song that is out there, like, and I feel like it's different. And maybe it's because of where I came from, but it sounded very I don't know. See, I came from the 80s, so I love the beat. I love the pop in it. I just, and boy, the story was intense. Like just the way that just the lyrics lay out. Like this is hardcore. But can you tell me just briefly, just for my own sake, of like how'd you create it, write it? Like what's the story there?
I think it was one of the first songs we made for the album with my buddy Joey, and he produced it. And for that one, definitely, it was just like it's probably the most concise way of explaining the cycles, just of like trying to break free of that. Like the whole chorus is kind of like this knowing that, this is not going to end well. And it's like, you just want to watch somebody die for you. Bring me to my lowest. That's a high for you. And that's what I went through most recently. And it's like, how far can I put someone down? How much power do I have, to control someone emotionally? And that's definitely, what I went through. And it's like, at the end of the day, that's a death wish, because if that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life, you're already dead inside. That's not any way to live or treat anyone, or any sustainable way of leading a healthy life.
Yeah.
And it's making commentary on that, but also myself, of like, you can't keep being in these cycles. You just won't. It's not healthy. It may be familiar and it may feel like love because it's what you have been taught to make synonymous with love, but that doesn't mean it's healthy, and it doesn't mean that you have to be stuck in that cycle forever.
Well, and the way you put, to me, such fun music with what such intense lyrics. It's like the interview I saw somewhere online with Tyler Joseph from 21 Pilots, where he said, sometimes I write sad songs, but it doesn't mean I want to put sad music to it. I mean, sometimes I want to put, this upbeat music. And to me, the music was upbeat. I could work out to it. I could jog to it. And it wasn't putting me in a depressive state. So I thought that was cool how you put that in there.
I think my big thing, and we've done it for a long time, I really like the idea of layers where, if this song was on at a party in the background, it's like, it's upbeat, as you're saying, you could have a good time. Yeah. It's just hovering in the background. But if you sit with it, your experience is entirely different. When you actually sit there and listen to it and digest it, your experience is totally different. I'm a big fan of like John Bellion, like that's one of my idols. And he's someone who will definitely, these super upbeat songs, but in concept, it's actually, one of the saddest songs ever. I love that juxtaposition. I love contrast. And I like that, the way you can kind of layer things, where it's like, if you're in this setting, you're going to have this experience. If you're in that setting, you're going to have an entirely different experience. Yeah. I think is the beauty of music. I love that.
That's cool. You might have had a different song you like, but I'm going to let you close that out.
Okay. Yeah. My favorite song of yours that I've heard over the last couple of days and weeks is Not Alone. So can you talk a little bit about that song?
That was honestly, Not Alone is one of those songs where it quintessentially shows how this normally happens when I write, but it's the most on the nose of me actually being, in a hole and depressed and writing myself out of it. So you can hear it throughout, the first verse is very low, it's downtrodden, it's, but then I start to change perspective in the second verse until I've climbed out of that hole. And that's the cool thing of Rose and I have been working for years. And a lot of times the way we work will be he'll put down a chorus and then I'll come in, see how I relate to it, and write out my verses. So that's where that song really put me in that downtrodden state. But by the end of writing it, and you get to the end of verse 2, I had written myself and hopefully the listener as well out of that hole. But really, that was one of the most, it's the most on the nose therapeutic evolution songs I have. Like you can hear it in my other songs, but it's not as, there it is. I feel like Not Alone is the most, I literally wrote through my own depression and hole while making this song. So I appreciate that. That's one of my favorites. So, and I've heard that from other people too, where it's definitely uplifting to them because that's what it did for me in writing it. So yeah.
Really cool. Anything else yet? No. Abstract, you are the best. We have taken like so much of your time and you've been so gracious. Really, like to get this inside scoop, to get, to see you in person and to be able to chat with somebody we've reacted to and to somebody who's been asked about from so many people is so cool. And I hope we get to do more reactions because I can't wait for the music to just keep coming out. And I hope one day you come down to Houston, Texas again so we can come see you in person.
Yeah.
Definitely. We got to do it. Thank you so much, guys. It's been an honor. Thank you for having me. Great combo. And anytime. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That's Abstract. What an interview. I could have sat there all day. Nick?
No, it was like it was such a long interview, but we could have gone for another hour or two, I bet. It was just so much.
I feel like I've got a VIP pass to be able to talk to people, artists who we've reacted to and heard their music, especially for the first time, and then be able to talk to him. And he's a regular guy that just really, we could have sat there. He was so kind. We could have sat there. We didn't even get all our questions in. I started feeling bad after a while because he was just so nice to answer everything and give such good detail about him and his life.
Yeah, and I thought what you just said, it was really cool to have him talk about like how he just is a regular guy, and like we all are actually closer together than people think. Like you see these celebrities that are so famous, but they're really people too. Like they're not just because they have followers doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like they're still human.
And he gets just as much out of talking to his fans as he does performing, or more. So what a cool thing. I just love this podcast for that very reason, to talk to artists and just learn a little bit more and we got information and stories I didn't think we would even get today.
I know, we got some
thank you, Abstract.
Really cool behind the scenes stuff. So it's
really cool. Loved having you on the show. And everybody, thanks so much for being here. This has been a blast. Made my day.
Yeah, if you have any other thoughts or questions, leave them definitely in the comment and let us know who you want us to interview next. And I guess that'll do it.
Love it.
And we'll see you on the next
Reaction Therapy Podcast.